Hi everyone, hope you're all okay. Sorry I've not been posting this year, but lots of things have happened and I've recently, in the last couple of months, moved house and only really just got my embroidery machine and things set up in my office / craft space. Today's video is just a very quick last minute gift idea. Now, I purchased this design. I will leave a link to the website in the description under the YouTube video. And the design comes in various sizes. I'm using my 8x12 embroidery hoop for this particular design, and I'll show you a couple that I've already made. So here they are. They can be, you know, like a table topper, a pot holder, a big coaster, whatever you want. So for these two, I've used exactly the same fabrics on the outside and the inside. But for this one, I did all the embroidery in white, and then I did the blanket stitch in like a navy blue. And for this one, I did all the embroidery and the blanket stitch in navy blue. I'm going to be using a slightly different colourway today. I just thought I'd show you how easy and quick these are together. They've got like an envelope backing. You can sew this up, you can seal it up if you want, but mine are overlap, you know, quite a good few inches, so I don't really think that there's a need to. This particular design also comes with a file that you can make round coasters that have, I think it's this flower design in the middle. So you could make a set, you know, you could make one of these and 2 or 4 coasters, or a couple of these and coasters, or just these, or just the coasters, whatever you want really. I'm going to be using blue check as my outline on today's project, and the middle bit I'm going to be using this bluey grey material with the little foxes on it that I've had for ages. I think this was in a fat quarter I got from somewhere, but I can't remember where. The first thing I'm going to do, you only need to use a piece of heat and bond on this middle section. So I'm going to put some heat and bond on this, then I'm going to turn you around to the embroidery machine and show you how quickly this stitches together. I've got my lock click heat press. I'm just going to put my fabric on here, and I'm just going to put a piece of silicone sheet over the top. I've got this set to 225 for 20 seconds. So I'll wait for the heat and bond to be fastened to the back of the fabric, and I'll check it and make sure it's okay. If not, it may need a little bit longer. You don't need a heat press to do this. An iron or a little mini iron. I've got the lock click mini iron. I could have used that as well, but my heat press is here more or less, you know, next to my embroidery machine, so I might as well use it. And I keep all my silicone sheets and everything and mats, extra mats, stored in the actual lock clip. And to be fair, I don't often move them unless it's a big item. I might have to take something out, but I just leave them all in. Right, so I'm peeling the paper away. I'm using Heat and Bond Ultra, I think it's called, from memory. It's the one with the red paper anyway. You can use Heat and Bond Light if you're sewing through it, but to be fair, I've never had any problems sewing through any of my fabrics that have got Heat and Bond Ultra. You'll know that the heat and bond's on the back. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that, but you can see a shiny surface. That's the double-sided heat and bond, okay? So I'm just going to turn that off. So as I say, this is the only piece that you need the heat and bond on. So now, apart from that, you need a piece of base fabric, and you need 2 pieces of fabric to make the envelope back. Basically what I've done, I've cut these the same length. These are about 8 inches by 10. This is roughly 10 by 10. I'm doing the 8 by 8 design, and then I've folded over about 2 inches on each of the long sides, and this is what makes your envelope backing, like so, okay? But for now, and you need some wadding. Now, in the lady's tutorial on her website, she uses, I think, 1 or 2 layers of cotton batting. I thought I had some, but I can't find it. As I say, I've moved house in the last few months, but I'm sure that I've got everything out now that I had. Maybe I just ran out. So I'm just going to use a couple of layers of this. I don't think it's going to make any difference. The person I'm giving it to will probably just use it as a table center rather than, you know, for a hot pad. But if, you know, you're going to be using this on a surface with like a hot pan or anything, and your surface underneath isn't, you know, something like marble or granite or quartz, then you might want to use cotton batting, or you can even use the batting that I've used in the past in other videos that's for hot pads and oven gloves and that kind of thing, and the name just escapes me at the moment. Let's turn around to the machine. So to save some time, I've already hooped up 2 layers of tearaway stabilizer. I'm going to call up the design on my machine. I'm just going to trace the outline. I know it fits because I'm using my hoop that came with my machine, and if the design didn't fit, the machine would tell me, but I always like to double check because I do use the magnetic Maggie frames as well, and with those you definitely always have to do a trace. So this is just going to trace where the outer edges of the design are going to come to. And I'm going to stitch step 1. And again on this one I'm just using navy blue thread, and I'll use that all the way through the design. Okay, so that's finished. That's given me the outline to show me where to put my 2 layers of batting. So I'm just going to pop that under the needle. Just make sure that all your outer edges are fully covered. And now this is going to tack the batting down. When this step's finished, you need to cut away the batting. And I'll show you that when I get to it. Okay, so that's tacked that down. So now you just need to cut away as close to the stitching as you possibly can, but without cutting through your stitches. So I'm going to take this off the hoop and I'm just going to do this over on the worktop. I'm using my curved applique scissors to cut this away, and I'm just going to rotate the hoop as I go round. I find that's the easiest. As I say, you want to get kind of fairly close to your stitches, but without going through them. It's not too vital at this point because this is going to have the base fabric over it anyway. So if this bit's a little bit untidy, don't worry too much about it. I came across this website purely by accident. I think it came up as a recommendation. Can't really remember. And I started watching the videos and I love the lady's designs and the fabrics that she uses. They're just really typically me. And I was drawn to it, and I just thought how nice would, I mean, she's got loads of, you know, great designs, but I just thought how nice would these be to do as kind of last minute stocking fillers. I'm just going to cut that off. So that's that now all cut away, and then I'm going to put this back under the machine. I also just want to say while I'm doing this, I'll just put this fabric down and be getting on with this first. So this is my base fabric. You just need to make sure that you cover all that stitching. So that's tacked the fabric down now. So the next part of the design is going to be the placement stitch for the middle fabric. So that's the placement line for the middle pattern fabric. As you can see, as I showed you, I've taken off the heat and bond paper, and that's now going to tack that down. And then when the machine stops, you cut away this top fabric and then you move on to the next step. I just want to say, while I remember, although I've not been posting on my YouTube channel all this year at least, I am still getting new subscribers every month that are finding my channel that have ScanNCuts or are looking at machine embroidery projects. So thank you so much for all the new subscribers that have that have subscribed this year, you know, in my absence. Obviously, thank you to everybody else that's been subscribed, you know, for a long time. I do appreciate it. I kind of ran out of projects for the ScanNCut. I've been on YouTube, I think maybe 8 or 9 years, and I thought that all that was going on and knowing that I was moving, everything got packed away anyway. But I kind of thought that I've more or less covered everything multiple times. But I have found that when I've just been looking at comments recently, that people are still asking questions and, you know, saying thank you, that the videos are helpful. So I obviously will try and maybe start doing some more ScanNCut videos. At the moment, they won't be every single week like I've done for about the last 8 years or so. But, you know, if anybody is struggling with anything and you want to know how to do something, I do have any you know, new viewers or subscribers. I have the ScanNCut SDX 2200 Disney machine, so the machine that has the auto blade technology. So if you have any of the EX machines or auto blade technology machines and you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments or message me via my website. The details of the website are always at the front and end of all my videos. But as I say, for now, this is just a quick introduction back to let everybody know that I am still around, even though I've, you know, taken a lot of time off this year, and I just thought I'd show you this quick project. So next step is, as I say, to tack this fabric down and then take it off the machine and cut away this excess fabric before it then starts to do all its embroidery. Okay, so to save some time, I'm going to take this out of the machine and I'm going to cut away just this top fabric, not touching this bottom one at all, and then I'll be back. Okay, so hopefully you can see now that's all cut out. Try to be, you know, as neat as possible on this one because this is your top finish fabric. But, you know, you don't have to be too precious because it is going to have that blanket stitch outline. I can see a little bit there that I'm just going to try clip off. So now it's going to do all the inside embroidery, and then it's going to do the blanket stitch all the way around, and then there's only one more step and it's finished. So you can see how quick and easy this project is. So let me start the machine up. As I said, I'm using all the same colour. It does stop in between each of the steps, so you could use any colour that you want. Okay, so the next step is to do the blanket stitch all the way around the middle of this inner piece. But just before I go on to that, I know a few of you have messaged me and asked me how we all are. I just thought I'd give you a quick view of the furry supervisor, who's never very far from my side. That was just a cameo appearance. He's 4 now. Anyway, back onto the project. Okay, the last step is to put the backing on. So these are where the 2 pieces that I've folded over come in. So I've, as I say, cut these about 10 by 8 and folded over 2 inches. You could fold over completely in half and have extra fabric, but I don't really find it absolutely necessary. I'm going to bring this over, and I like to take my folded piece past the halfway so that you've got a good overlap here in the middle. So long as you're covering up your outline stitches, you're fine. You want to put the fold towards the middle, not the outside. So this is all your raw edges. This is my other piece, and again I'm just going to overlap them and make sure that everything gets covered up. So on this edge here, I'm not sure how well you'll see it, this edge of my fabric is going over my stitching, and they, you know, overlap a good few inches in the middle for the envelope backing. So now it's a case of just tacking all this down, and then it's ready to cut out and press. So this is the last step. So you can see it's a really easy process to do. And that's it finished. And I just want to say before I take it out, when you've got your piece like this that's got the heat and bond on it, don't throw it away, because any of these pieces could be used on little projects. I tend to keep all my fabrics that I've got heat and bond on in a plastic Ziploc bag or in a couple of bags. But the person that I bought this stitch file off uses a binder, and she has Ziploc bags in the binder, and she puts them by colour. So irrespective of the pattern, you know, she'll put like all the blues together and the pinks and reds and the greens and that kind of thing. And I think that's a really good idea. So I'm going to look for a binder, although I did throw loads away before the move, thinking that I wasn't going to need them and they were taking up space. So I'm going to look for a decent binder with some Ziploc bags inside, and I'm going to start keeping all my bits of scrap fabrics that I've got the heat and bond on the back in there. I'm going to take this off the machine now. So I'm going to start by tearing away the bulk of this stabilizer. And again, I've shown in previous videos where you can, you know, cut these and sew them together and make new strips. There'll be a video on my channel somewhere showing how to do that, so you're not wasting on, you know, your valuable tear away. And then I'm going to cut around this using pinking shears. You can use ordinary scissors, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to try and cut about 1/4 of an inch away from this outline stitching as best I can. Again, you know, it's not vital, but just try and don't get too close to your stitching. And then where your knots and things are, if you just take a lighter and singe them lightly, that will stop them from fraying. I mean, they probably won't anyway, but it's always good to have a little bit of extra security. So I'm just following the shape using my pinking shears. And the reason I'm using pinking shears is because obviously there's lots of curves here, and I find that the pinking shears just help you to turn it out better on curves. So that's done now. So all you need to do now is flip it right side out with both your envelope backings. I'm just going to put my heat press back on. I'm using my bone folder, and I'm just using the rounded end, and I'm just going to push out all these little curves. So that's the finished item. So now obviously, you know, the bulk of this inner fabric is held down with all this stitching, but you have got heat and bond under this top piece. So I'm just going to give it a quick press. Again, you can use an iron, you can use a mini iron, you know, if you've got the lock click or any of the others, HTV Ronk, Cricut, etc. But I've got my heat press here next to my machine, so I might as well use it. So I'm just going to give it a quick blast, just going to cover it up. And just give it 20 seconds or so on both sides. that will obviously just press it nicely, but it will also activate that heat and bond. Okay, so as I say, you can stitch this up by hand if you want. You could put some of that hemming tape in there, or double-sided sewing or embroidery tape, but I find because I overlap them quite a bit that you don't really need to do anything. And there it is, all finished. I'll try and get a better photograph for the thumbnail, but there are the 3 I've done so far. The beauty of doing projects in the hoop is that every single one turns out the same size every time. So if you're doing these, you know, as a few in a set for a gift, you know they're always going to come out the same size. Anyway, that's today's video. As I say, thank you to everybody that has started following me in 2025. Thank you to everybody that's followed me for a long time. I hope you all have a lovely Christmas if you celebrate it, and I hopefully will see you in another video soon. Thank you. Bye for now.